This episode is brought to you by Peloton. Break through the busiest time of year with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Powered by Peloton IQ. With real-time guidance and endless ways to move, you can personalize your workouts and train with confidence, helping you reach your goals in less time. Let yourself run, lift, sculpt, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
5 a.m. I'm up with a crisp Celsius energy drink. Running 12 miles today. Grab a green juice, quick change, and head to work. Meetings, workshops. One more Celsius, no slowing down. Working late, but obviously still meeting the girls for a little dancing. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Christian Moore back to Jack Goodchild on the blue line. He manages to get it wide to Jacob Minter. And Goodchild with the shot! And the Slough Jets are taking the lead on the power play with 23 seconds remaining. And Jack Goodchild is Kane Russell with the shot cross goal. No need for the save from Lorne. And Campbell has found himself on. And it's 3-1 to the Johnson Chieftains. They have it back quickly. Hello and welcome to Zero Pucks Given, the UK Ice Hockey Podcast, hosted by me, Ben Hyde.
And me, Katelin O'Piner.
Evening, Katelin.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very, very well. It's been a bit of a rough week, bit of a long week. I'm the one that's feeling a little under the weather, which is normally you.
It's normally me, so actually I'm quite glad it's you.
But yeah, and we've got a little bit of a giveaway. If anyone's joining us on YouTube, you can see there's a little giveaway as to who our guest is on this week's episode. So delighted to be joined for his third time, I think, on Zero Pucks Given, Mr. Nick Rothwell. How you doing, sir?
A hat trick.
Yeah, it's the hat trick.
Nice. I'm doing really well, guys.
I'll have to take you a puck for the next time I see you.
Yes, please. I don't want to timestamp this, but I'm pretty buzzing from the Olympics.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was sitting downstairs watching it with me and my daughter had it on the telly whilst we were watching dinner, which watching telly when we have dinner is a no-no in this house.
Yeah.
Oh.
But when the Olympics is on and when it goes to overtime and it's like, oh.
and you know, I called it because, you know, when Canada, they won 5-0 in the preliminary rounds against Czech. And then Czech are just such a resilient team. And if they're in an underdog position, they can play out of their skins. They play really, really well. And I called it with a Czech friend for lunch today. I was like, I think it's going to be 3-2 for Czechia. But Marner he ruined it for me. He ruined my calling of the game. But what an awesome game, awesome performance. I love Olympic hockey. Yeah.
The Pasternak goal was one of the best goals I've ever seen.
The guy's a machine. He's just unreal. And he's just, you know, the way he takes hits, the way he's playing with a bleeding lip, and you know, I think he's one of my favorite players. I love the guy.
The linesman took quite a hit with as well at some point during that game.
Yeah, he's going to have a ice whoopee cushion tonight, I think.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't been watching any of the Olympic hockey, which is so annoying because I really love watching Olympic hockey, but I just haven't had the time. I haven't been at home to be able to whack it on the telly.
You've probably been out wearing your hat.
Yeah, wrapping the hat whilst moving house.
But so the first time that you come on here, Nick, Retribe was almost just a brainchild. It was kind of in the early beginnings, and then we spoke. Which I said this to Katelin actually last time that we spoke. Your first appearance on Zero Pucks Given was nearly 3 years ago. And,
wow, that's a long time, eh?
Yeah, and us actually meeting up in London was nearly 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Time is flying by, Ben. We got to slow it down.
I know. It's gone so fast. Because in London, you were doing the Monday night meetups at Elephant and Castle, getting some stuff out there. That was the last time you were on because we did a little chat, myself, you, Lee Mercer. We're all there that evening.
Yeah.
And since then, man, Retribe has just taken on a life of its own. We did the podcast as well for Retribe, which was going great guns for everyone within that group. And now with these new ambassadors, you're absolutely flying.
I think it's when I was a kid, well, not a kid, but when I was in my 20s, I was starting a company, and I was on TV, and I was playing hockey, and I had some money, and I would always say, I'm going to go out and buy this, and I'm going to go get this. And my mom would always be like, Nick, cool your jets, slow down. You want things too fast. And honestly, guys, like since that was a message. It's taken me a long time to learn it. But when I built Retribe, the idea of it is 9 years old. As a company, it was 2019. It's set up as a company. So it's like, it's taken time, and right at the beginning, I wanted a mobile app. I wanted a podcast. I wanted all this stuff, but it tends to work out that you don't necessarily get the things you want, but you get the things you need. And I've had some very, very good advice along the way. And when it was like, let's start building this app. One of the guys here in the Czech Republic, he's a really smart guy. His name's Jiří. And he was like, Nick, you need proof of concept. He goes like, and he's a data scientist. He's a techie. And he's like, you need proof of concept that this works. And I was like, yeah, it does work. I've been doing it. He's like, no, you need to have a group of people. You need a testing group. And that's when, we talked, was like, we've got this, we called it the Stick Together Tribe, right? The Facebook group that started. And that was my second appearance when I was like, we really do have something going here, because it was through that group that we started doing our weekly chats. We started doing some exclusive content so that we could actually show people that this is working, and then it was a year ago that I bumped into Luc Tardif, the president of the EIHL, when I was doing the commentary at the Asian Winter Games. And he said to me, and I if people heard this before, but he looked me dead in the eyes in the VIP room of this ice arena in Harbin, China. And he went, Nick, you're doing what we're not doing. And I wouldn't have been able to tell him that if I didn't have a year of working with this group of guys. And, the heartwarming thing here is that with the guys that have, they've always been brothers in hockey, but we've formed these really amazing bonds. And some of them would say that they wouldn't be here today. They wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Retribe. And that to me is just like, this is working. So, and I've always said to people, like no one has the power to save anybody from making those decisions, but you can give people the tools. You can keep people community. You can keep people out of isolation so that they make better decisions so as not to harm themselves or the people around them. And I think, that's the proof is in the pudding. We've been doing that. So I think that when I've been able to start going, how are we going to gain some momentum? We need some people to start talking about it. So we started posting all the testimonials from the groups. We just did a testimonial today about Paul Rushforth, who was a London Knights captain, drafted by Buffalo, grinded it out in the American Hockey League for a long time, and then came over and played in the Super League. And I remember becoming kind of friends with Paul before he lifted that cup. And he was like, Nick, he has a gruff voice. Nick, I just got to lift the cup. I just got to lift the cup. That's my end. And then he lifted that cup, and I was on the ice interviewing him for Sky Sports when that happened. And I just saw the elation and the joy in this man's life. But then now knowing his journey and his struggles and his challenges, and then being able to walk on that path with him as he's found sobriety and a life that he would say, is beyond what he had before. And posting these stories out on social media, again, it's just proof of concept that what we're doing is working. And then, so that's, I guess why I'm on here again today is that we've got these ambassadors. We've launched Tony Hand before Christmas, the GOAT. And then in terms of British hockey, and we did, I bumped into him in Edinburgh. And he's just always watching what we're doing and quietly supporting it. And then it's like, who are we going to ask who's active? And it was like, you got to go with Liam Kirk, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't one of the same thing with Tony. All these guys do their due diligence, right? And they look back and they got, again, they're not going to put their name to something that's just new or hasn't got the proof of concept, hasn't got the work behind it. that momentum. So Liam, I sent him a bunch of information. We talked a couple of times on the phone. I spoke with his agent, who, funny enough, is based in Prague in the Czech Republic, and he said to me, Liam's really excited about this. So it's not just that these guys are gonna, wear the hat, that nice hat that Katelin's wearing, but
courtesy of you.
It's actually that they believe in what we're doing. And so Liam Kirk is our first active player, and then the other night we announced Logan Neilson, and he's our first elite league player, which is a real big thing for us, is to get a guy in the UK in the elite leagues who can wear that hat and support what we're doing. And Logan, I met in Poland, and the Ice Hockey UK people, Andy French and the backroom staff, they got me and Zach down into the changing room, and they got Zach a broken stick, and they had it all taped up, and a silver Sharpie, and he got to go around the changing room and meet the guys.
Oh, wow.
And I was just kind of watching in the back, and all the guys, every single one of those guys was so nice to Zach. They gave their time. They just finished. They just lost a squeezer against Poland, but they were still really nice. This is in the First Nations Cup, the one that was in Poland. And they signed this stick, and they were all really nice to Zach. And it got around to the end, and Logan Neilson was on the end bench. And Zach just started talking to him, because Zach didn't, and I was just watching. I didn't want to guide Zach out of the room. I wanted to kind of see what was going to happen here, because Zach didn't know what to do, so he just kept talking. Okay. And he said to Logan, he's just like asking things, and then looks at Logan, he goes, if you played against my whole team, who would win? And Logan's like, oh, I don't know, man. That would be really hard. Would you all be on the ice at the same time? And he's like, and Zach's going, yeah, we'd all be on the ice. So me against, he goes, I think I would need some help. You guys would probably win. And Zach was like, yeah, we probably would win. And it was just this beautiful exchange that Logan didn't really know who I was, and he was just really nice to Zach. And I was just like, what a charming guy, and what a nice guy. So I just knew that I would consider him to wear the retried hat as well. And then obviously seeing the challenges that happened, with him moving from Sheffield to Fife. And, I know that there's two sides to every story, but it does indicate that when you're moving from one club to another club, there can be some challenges. Doesn't matter. I'm not taking sides with anybody, but when you're transitioning from one club to another and playing time, etc., there are some challenges that you can go through as an individual, and we want to be able to be there for anybody who's going through things like that too. So Logan's had experience, and maybe going through forward, and I don't wish that on anybody if there's those kind of challenges of going from one team to another, but at least somebody's going to say, hey, Logan Neilson, maybe I can reach out to him and ask for some advice, and then they'll have the platform to be able to do that. So I can't, because of the time, right? I don't know when this is going out, but I know this Friday we're going to be announcing a GB women hockey player who I met in České Budějovice at the World Championships, and she was representing Great Britain in the leadership seminar. So you can make guesses of who it's going to be, but you're going to find out on Friday anyway. And then we've got two more GB players. And then to wrap it up, we've got a player who's based here in the Czech Republic who plays for Gladno, with Jaromír Jágr. And he's really excited to get the hat too. So we've got a whole bunch of momentum of the players that have been released. And then we've got 4 more in the pipeline that are going to be coming out. I don't know when this is going to be going out, but, soon you're going to get some more news about people who are going to be representing us.
Yeah, it'll probably come out Friday, actually, the same day as that announcement of the female GB player. But yeah, I mean, just as you say, taking the time to not only build it, but build it right, because I know how much this means to you. Anyone that listens to this podcast and heard your previous appearances on here knows how much this means to you. And as you say, taking that little bit of extra time to ensure that these are the right people to be ambassadors. Have you been inundated with people that want to join as just to be part of it, not an ambassador, but just to actually be part of it?
There's guys who are texting me for the hat, right? Yeah, everybody, something about the hat, and but there are people who, every single day I get 2 to 3 messages, from people who are like, not only, wanting to help out, even from people based outside of the UK. Nick, what can I do? I've been a coach. I've gone into some wellness activity, maybe yoga, breath work, or advanced coaching techniques, or PT training. Like there's people who have all these skill sets. So it's not just the players, but it's the people who want to offer things to the players. And that is always going to be part of Retribe as well. You have to have the user, and you have to have resources for the user. Now, in the middle is Retribe, the connector, right? The tribe formation. We also provide the peer-to-peer support platform. We also have Dr. Misha Jervis and her transformational learning, and her sports psychologists who've been learning about what we're doing and studying it for 2 years now. And then, exclusive content and podcast material. But then what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to plug in financial experts, recruitment companies who can train players on how to find jobs in this new world of AI writing your CVs and AI writing your cover letters and all of these challenges that a lot of athletes are going through with, like, the transition from life after sport, what kind of profession is going to be suited for. So there's these experts out there that will then be able to plug into, plus nutrition guys and physical exercise guys and all the other kind of resources that are out there. We're not going to just let anybody in. They have to have the same values that we have. So I actually get a lot of people reaching out asking to provide services, which is really amazing as well.
Mm. You obviously mentioned about how important it was to get an elite league player in, and we actually spoke about this privately in Edinburgh. When you finally did get Logan in, how amazing did that feel for you? Because I know you felt so passionately about getting an elite league player in when we spoke in Edinburgh. Well,
it means so much because, like, hockey in the UK it's what I know, right? And I've been involved in it, Katelin, in so many different areas, as a player, as a coach, as an owner, as a broadcaster. I've seen the challenges that UK has gone through over the last 30 years that I've known it. And I think that there's we don't want to disrupt anything. We don't want to come in and go, we're going to start fighting for players' rights and collective bargaining agreements and profit sharing and all that kind of stuff. We don't want to touch that stuff. That's like an association or a union. So I think some people, maybe in that elite league, maybe in the top tiers of ownerships, et cetera, and leadership might see Retribe as being somewhat of a threat. And I really want to make it clear that we're not. We are a community. We're support and growth. We're not about, we're about being able to sit alongside of the leagues, right? We don't want to infiltrate, because what makes us so special is that we're not part of the league. We're not part of the associations or the federations or the unions. We sit independently, Retribe, with our own logo, and we with colors that we've selected for a reason, so that we're not aligned with any teams or federations or countries. So the players will feel safe coming to us, because I know, like, out of a team of 20 guys, and you can kind of dispute numbers, but guaranteed there's at least 10% of that team that is going to be struggling with alcohol or substance use, at least 10. So 2 guys. Then you can add gambling into the mix. And gambling is on the rise. Gambling challenges on the rise because gambling, you can't smell that on the breath. And we know that there are players who move over for a season, 8 months of the year. They're away from their families. They're away from their culture. They're away from what they know. And inside there might be some need to reach out for some external respite, right? It could be a drink. It could be a drug. It could be, something else. It could be gambling. So let's say 25% of your team are struggling with looking at something kind of exterior to fill an interior hole. Maybe one of those guys, max 2, will feel comfortable going to their GM, their coach, their assistant captain, or their captain. They'll be, hey guys, I'm struggling with this. I gambled last week's wages. I don't know what to do. And then that team will be able to signpost them to some resources that they might already have. a lot of teams do have sports psychologists and therapists and psychotherapists already associated with their teams. But let's say 3 are going to be like, nah, no way I'm telling coach. No way I'm telling my roommate. And they're going to do it because they don't want to lose their spot on their team. They don't want to be judged, right? They don't want to be kind of isolated or like, oh, so-and-so's, they got a problem, you know? And when somebody says that in your team, oh, so-and-so's got a problem, it's the shaming. And we know that happens. So that's why, you know, to have an elite league player come on and start to understand what we do, then it'll start to spread the word. Nick Rothwell, Retribe, they're there for support. They're not there to disrupt. They're not there to tear anything down. They're there to help us so that we can all build it up together. So Logan's a really important piece of the puzzle for that.
And you've done some work with the EIHL as well. As you said, you bumped into the president when you were doing the commentary at the Asia Games. Did that kind of give you almost like a leap on the platform because you managed to kind of infiltrate that very top level?
When Luke Tardif knows your name and knows what you do and tells you that you're doing what we're not doing, that gives you automatic credibility with dozens of people, you know, because he is the president of the hockey magazine does most powerful men in hockey, right? He's number 2 under Gary Bettman. And you could kind of argue whether or not it's him or Gary Bettman is the most powerful. So we'll say the second most powerful man, according to Hockey News, you know, in hockey globally knows about us. And if I send him a text message on LinkedIn, he'll respond to it, you know. So it's wonderful. And for his team to have recognized what we do by asking, I was the only person asked to speak at both the women and the men's world championships. So to have that as an honor, you know, it just gives a lot of depth and weight to what we're doing. And it's something that definitely did, I think we've got the EIHL on our website, you know, we've got the little story of what happened. And I think it just gives us a lot of credibility. And so, yeah, it did really launch us into this last year of getting us into the point where not just the EIHL, and I know Ice Hockey UK and the teams in the UK wouldn't have known me anyway because of my history there. But if I reach out to the guys in Sweden and Finland, Switzerland, you know, they all have heard about Retribe. So it's pretty cool. But right back to it's taken time. You just can't send emails to these guys and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. You know, they're so busy and they've got so much on and there's so much out there. So to be able to kind of cut through the noise by actually standing on those platforms and talking about what we do has been really important for us.
And as you keep saying, you know, it's taken a lot of time, and obviously in the future is the plan to fully go globally. So, like, you know, everywhere in hockey around the world has Retribe.
Okay, just to honor my mom, I'll go slow. But yes, Katelin, I've always thought of Retribe as being, you know, bigger than a country. It's bigger than me. It's a movement. You know, I speak about this a lot. It's like we live in this world where we've forgotten what it's taken to get to where we are. And I named Retribe a little bit by accident 9 years ago. The first name was Reborn, and I was call it Reborn. And people were like, Nick, it's a good name, but it's a bit religious. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's a bit religious. And it was at the time when Jeremy Clarkson got fired from the BBC. And him and James May and Richard Hammond started Drive Tribe before they went to Prime. And I saw their logo, and it had Drive and then this tribe written on it in this black square with white writing. It's like, that's really cool. And all I did was stuck the re in front of the tribe, and that was it. And then the re stood for reinvigorate, reestablish, reconnect, all of the re's with a tribe, you know, your tribe. And then I started to read things and find out about kind of like our history and how we evolved. And I learned about this thing called the Dunbar number. And Dunbar was an anthropologist and a historian and studied human evolution. And he noted that through tens of thousands of years of human evolution, we had a primary tribe, and that was about 6 people, which is our primary tribe. We get you into a group of 6 people, and we started doing that. And again, we have proof of concept that works. Under kind of 3 could be a date, so that doesn't work. And over 6, the power dynamics change. So we focused on 6 people, and then Dunbar's numbers backs that up. And then you can grow to a tribe of about 30 people, 30 to 50 people. And that's kind of like your purpose tribe where you contribute to the tribe, and people have these skill sets that contribute to the tribe's survival. And it gives you purpose and accountability. And then you have the village, and the village number is about 150 people. And once it gets to more than 150, these numbers, they would split and then start their new little tribes to grow to 150. And that's kind of how they went out, because our brains are only designed to really know 150 people. So, I mean, I've got like more than that on Facebook. I've got about 5,000 friends, and Dunbar number says I can't know them all. So I can only know 500 people intimately. So understanding all of this is what I wanted Retribe to be able to do, is use technology to solve a problem that technology has kind of exacerbated by giving people these tribe numbers, so that you can have this platform, this app that really enables you to form these really stronger relationships with these smaller numbers of people. And then it will give you incentive to actually get out of your house and do stuff with your tribe. Because, again, a lot of these numbers and stats that I have was from the time that I spent in Toronto. But in Toronto, at the time that I'd left, about 75% of the dwellings in downtown Toronto was single occupancy. And everyone's been to Toronto, you see those buildings going up, or those skyscrapers. They're all studio bedrooms and studio flats and 1-bedroom apartments. And it seems like cities just want us to live in these little egg cartons with this guy, right, to order our food, order our everything, and sit in these things and plug into these things so that we don't have any human contact. So I know this is a long way of saying like just UK hockey, but this is a movement of like global connectivity, global accountability. And our aim is to focus, again, one thing at a time, UK hockey. Once we nail UK hockey, we can start saying we're hockey. But then that is very replicable to football. I've been speaking with representatives of the PFA, and they really like what we're doing. So once we nail hockey, it's really easy to go football. It's really easy to go rugby. It's really easy to go American football, basketball. And then once you've nailed sport, then you've got something that I know really inspired me was a guy named Sebastian Junger. Sebastian Junger was an American war correspondent during the first Iraqi wars. And he wrote a book called Tribes. And he noted the strong bonds of connectivity that military and service people form because of risk of life. So when you're in environments where your life is at risk, you form these connections with the people to your left and your right that are really strong. So he saw all of the challenges that were happening when people left the services or they left the military and they became isolated. And there's a lot of challenges for those people. So Retribe, once we nail sport, we're very replicable to ex-military and services, and that's in our pipeline as well. It's one of the verticals that we'll look at, but that's years away. Yeah. Katelin, sorry, my answers are so long.
No, don't apologize. Don't apologize.
That's why we love having you on, mate. You're one of the greatest talkers.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. I just got so much going. I just don't, I'm just grateful that I can talk to you guys and let people know what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, how far along is the app now? Because I know it was quite close towards the end of the year, and then the website went live, didn't it, with a lot more connectivity than it had before. So how close is the app now?
The app we're planning on launching end of the World Championships. So the app company, they're based in Prague. They're called Koala like the bear, 42. Koala 42, they're our app development company. Great guys that believe in what we're doing. they actually have a stake in Retribe, so that we felt that and this took a while to find a tech partner, is that when we found a tech partner, we wanted to have some skin in the game. And we formed a deal where there'd be pay for work done, but you would also, that pay would be reduced, and you would have a stake in the game. So we're not paying their top hourly rate because they actually have some ownership in the business. So that gives them incentive to really believe in it, which they do. And they're really cool guys. So it's funny, they're doing all of they're building it now, which is, I got to see the wireframes and the little prototypes, what it would look like and stuff, and play with it on my phone. But now to actually know that things are being coded, it's really neat. But yeah, end of the World Championships. And if there's some delay, that's cool too, because then we have the summer to roll it out. But we want it to be ready for the 26 season, beginning of 27. Yeah.
So obviously you've also announced people that aren't ambassadors but part of the tribe. Social media girl, Fleur Tobin, and then Hannah Martinson, who's an event manager, I'm pretty sure. Have you got anyone, explain on sort of that situation, and then have you also got any sort of other people coming in that aren't going to be ambassadors?
Yep. So that all kind of happened after I set up a board of directors. So I set up a board of directors before Christmas of some guys who I played hockey with. And by the way, some people said no, like when I asked around, a couple of guys actually said that they were too busy to be part of this, which is that's understandable. But the people, I've got a group of 3 people who sit on like an advisory board, and they have, significant influence to make sure that I stay accountable, because it's been me running this for the last few years and Misha. But now these people are there to make sure that the accounts, the invoicing, all that kind of stuff is it's got some oversight. And then social media has just been me, and I'd seen, it literally was just through Instagram. I saw Fleur's post on what she was doing in Romania, and I reached out to her and I said, look, I need some help with social media. And then she agreed to help out. And then Hannah actually reached out to me on LinkedIn, and Retribe is always, even though we're building this app has a function in it that tracks your face-to-face interactions, your human interactions. So the app is going to be designed to get you into face-to-face places, events, right? Coffee shops, workshops, all the things that we're going to be providing to people. And Hannah reached out as an event expert, and I asked her if she would come on board as well and help us with. We have in-person things scheduled for over the summer, which are these what we call Retribe Roadshows. So a Retribe Roadshow would be Chelmsford, for example, would find out about us, and they'd be like, "Hey, do you know what? We could do some help with our clubs, right? Have Retribe come in for a day or 2 for a roadshow where we would basically just come in and let everybody know what we've learned, where the basis of that learning, so the psychology that goes behind it, and then to give these clubs tools. And that's really what we are. We're giving you tools so that your club can operate in a level where they never thought possible. We want to elevate people's performance, but we also want to have club culture that doesn't create any harm. No one's singled out. Everyone feels part of a community. So you're looking at your club like an ecosystem, and we're there to give oxygen and teach people how to breathe differently so that everyone can flourish in this ecosystem. And those would be 1 or 2 day events. And then part of that too would be, so a lot of it would be in classroom, but then part of it would be on the ice, where we really want to just have some fun. I create some things on the ice where kids laugh, and really bring out that atmosphere of like safety. We know through learning that children, particularly, they learn through playing. Players are called players for a reason, But, even here in Zleen, my 9-year-old, they take it too serious, like it's a little factory. And although he's a resilient kid, he keeps showing up, he keeps doing this stuff. He has more fun outside in the backyard, like in the playgrounds and stuff with me, playing with tennis balls and bouncing them off each other's heads and stuff like that. And that's where he's really learning his skills. So we know this. And even like the other day, Chris Pronger, one of the most famous NHL defensemen of all time, right? And he's saying 9, 10, 11, 12, multi-sports, right? Don't take it too serious. Do not do elite player pathways under 12. Make them play, let them play, not make them play, let them play. And I even had that little hashtag go, let them play, the other day, like just let kids play. And we know this. So if we can go into clubs, and there's probably going to be people who hear this, on Friday going, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I'm going to, with my kid and my kid's going to make it to the EIHL and NHL. And I'm going to like have all this skill training for him and all this stuff. And, we saw the problems with Canada at the World Juniors, like one of the most skilled teams out there, but they didn't play as a unit. And so Canada's starting to look back at now through their minor hockey programs, going, why are we getting so serious, right? And of course, yes, it's made guys like Connor McDavid, and we've seen the skills of Mitch Marner tonight, but the play side of things is going to be really important. So that's what these Retribe Road shows are going to be about, and we're going to have a meet and greet around the country too, and that's what Hannah's going to come on board and do. So we not only have the ambassadors, but we're starting to create a backroom staff that can help me build this, because it's been on these shoulders for a little while, and I don't want people to think that Retribe is me. It isn't, even though I've been carrying this load for a while, and I fear that because of my story, and you guys know my story and my challenges with alcohol, I don't want people to think that Retribe is just about that, right? We're about so much more. I say we're about the full human spectrum, the spectrum of being a human, right through from crisis management to high performance. So that's why I've got the crew on board that we've got, and there's some other people coming on board soon too. So stay tuned for that.
I bet Fleur did take a little bit of a load off you, because I do know that you enjoy social media, you use it quite well. I know you have your little hour in the morning where you don't touch it and you just let your body and your mind wake up without even looking at it, because a lot of it can be quite negative. But I think that would have definitely taken a little load off of you just alone in social media.
Well, Fleur, her maturity, like she's much more mature than her age would be. Do you know what I mean? She's got her head screwed on. She knows what she wants. She knows that hockey is her first love, and social media is like an avenue to that. And I spoke with her, and she's just very determined in what she does. And she's also at that spectrum of a demographic that understands social media a different way, and I'm a 55-year-old guy making posts, for both platforms. And I don't think that works. I think that, what she brings into it is just a different look. And also she understands, how people are talking, around those rinks that she's associated with. So I think it's a really, really good compliment to what we do.
Yeah, that's why Katelin's here. She's
followed your lead, yeah.
Yeah, she's exactly the same for me. It was something that I knew the podcast probably needed a little bit of a change. It had just been me for best part of 3 to 3.5 years, and yeah, to find these, and particularly I think women, these really, really young women that love the sport and know how to use social media. And the key thing for me there is their knowledge. Their knowledge is phenomenal. And Katelin and Fleur in that together, the knowledge of the sport is so good. And that's what makes them vital, not only to the social media of the sport, but to the sport itself. Because UK hockey does not work without people that do things for it without being paid. Because it's not that big, not yet.
Yeah. No.
And for all of that, just what we do take a couple of hours a week. This is your life. And I think a lot of the people that are involved in it, I know that they will massively appreciate all the work that you've done. I certainly do.
Who are you talking about?
You.
Oh, okay.
He's been nice enough to me.
Okay. Well, it is, and it hasn't, like I'm not gonna like. I make my money working with guys one-on-one stuff on the side, and I work with men and women in leadership roles right now in the corporate world and sport world, and I dedicate a few hours of my day to that work, and then that money kind of just subsidizes everything else. In terms of a business model of how Retribe will work, there's the two sides of it. It can be B2B and it can be B2C. And I think right now we're taking a balanced approach of being able to go like let's just say a federation aligns with us and says, let's have the Retribe app. They would then purchase like 1,000 licenses from us, and they would then be able to distribute those licenses direct to players. We feel that's very useful for player safety. Because to build an app that's secure is really, really heavy costs, front end costs of having a sign up procedure that uses AI and like LLMs that will search out players to make sure that they are who they are. If you do the B2C route, right, when you're going straight to players where you charge a membership fee. But the main thing that everybody wants in this is security. A group of 6 people who have some similar challenges that are united by playing hockey, maybe same teams or maybe not, maybe different countries, but you're with your tribe. You don't want to have people in there that don't play hockey and maybe just want to be like, oh, I'm just going to infiltrate and pretend I play hockey. So security is really, to be able to make sure guys securely log in. You have to have relationships in a database with the leagues, with elite prospects, and things like that. Like they cost a lot of money. So we're going to probably head down the B2B model first and then see how that grows. But our ultimate aim would be to go straight to players and have them sign up. Because then you're not, the player knows that nothing is going to get back to the federations or anything, which it wouldn't anyway. Like, we don't report on anybody. So those are the kind of the two business models, but up until now, it's like I say, I've been bootstrapping this thing on my own. But, once, we get that momentum of being able to have somebody come in and say, we're going to purchase some license and then we go another level, too. So, but yeah, I have been dragging this around for a while then and doing it. And it's, you never switch off because it's a purpose that's turned into a passion. And, I wake up every morning knowing that I'm pretty good at what I do. So that kind of incentivizes me. This is not driven by monetary reward at all. Retribe in the UK, it's like a KIC, a CIC, which is not for profit. It's as close to not for profit as you can get before you become a charity. But I chose that route at the very beginning because I was the sole director, and you can run a CIC as a sole director. You don't have to have anything else. And that's why I set it up. But what's really good about the CIC is that you're legislated by the government. So every year when you do your returns, they look at and see if you've made a profit. And if you've made a profit, 65% of that profit has to go to a charity in your community. And that's what's so nice about the not-for-profit route. It can't go into a director's pocket, which I know a lot of people, have seen challenges with, particularly around hockey and clubs of, money maybe not going where it could go in terms of helping support young players. So we're very transparent about all that stuff. And I think that's really, really important about how we've gotten to where we are.
I agree. I think you've always been very upfront and very transparent about that. And obviously we're seeing what's happening with the Five Flyers at the moment as well, where the financial issues. It's a very difficult one when it comes to these clubs are now almost big sort of PLCs in some cases. So it is very, very difficult. But to be fair, the government's saying there, if you make any profits, that it has to go to a charity. That sounds about the only good thing the government in this country do.
Well, unfortunately, I've got a lot of friends that run businesses in the UK, and it's a really challenging time. I think maybe we didn't run from the UK. We moved to the Czech Republic for our sons. They just loved their Bubby and Yida, their grandparents, and we would come and visit them. And I never grew up with grandparents. My wife was a very successful university lecturer, and she was very happy in London. So she probably made the biggest sacrifice moving back here. But a lot of my friends are saying that the UK is very challenging for small businesses. So maybe in a blessing in disguise, being in the Czech Republic, it might be helping us more, like that I'm based here and building something from here than being in the UK. Because I've got a lot of friends that they're sole traders of their businesses, and they say that they're struggling a little bit. So I don't want to say anything bad about the UK government, but I know there are some challenging things going over there, and us being able to designate a charity, and for us it would probably be charities like Big Moose, set up by my friend Jeff Smith, and Heads Up that's being set up by, Dr. Silverwood and stuff. Will be able to kind of work together within these communities, which I think again is really important. It's really vital that there are so many people, really good people that want to help support not just players, but officials, parents, coaches, because I think everyone needs some support. I always said that this is we look at Retribe looks at supporting people like a four-legged stool, right? You can't just support players. We're specializing in that right now so that what we get, it works, but we've got to include coaches, officials, and parents. And parents, I don't want to leave out of the equation because, they do so much, they're the taxis, they're the banks, they're trying to figure things out themselves. And I'm trying to I see the coach doing something and I feel, and you want to get in, but you don't want to get your kid in trouble. So you have to navigate all this stuff. You have social media of all these parents in Canada and the United States pushing their kids and doing this. And you're thinking, I should be doing that too. And I need to go out and take a bank loan and get my kids some new flylights and vapor sticks. And you're like, whoa, it's a 400-pound stick. And there's so much pressure on these parents. So I want to be able to support parents in a way of sharing stories. I can't sit there with a parent, tell them what they're doing with their kid is right or wrong. That's not my job. But I can talk to parents, and I can have them on a podcast, and I can have parents who've been through some stuff tell other parents what they've learned and maybe try this other way. And that's how you can change opinions, through storytelling. Yeah. And if we were to look at Retribe in the future, guys, that's what I want to just focus on. I just want to focus on storytelling, and interviewing people, because then, I love interviewing people. I like being interviewed by you guys, but I like getting into people's stories, and I think that, I like doing little chunks of podcasts, and I did, Stan Marple and Mike Blaisdell and Paxton Schulte. And all of them have really valuable insights to UK hockey, and they've got powerful names that, people listen to them, and guys would listen to them and they would text me and say, oh, Nick, you know what? I listened to that and I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. And that's how I think that you have culture change. And probably one of the things that I'm really behind too is culture change in sport, because that was the talk. If anybody wants to, it's not the best talk I ever gave, but it's in Stockholm at the Coaches Symposium and at the last World Championships. And that was my talk, was part of the intro was how we learned what we learned about coaching, and, why we've learned what we've learned and where it's come from. And it actually comes from in the UK from post World War II sport, which was there was not a lot of people around. There was not a lot of joy. We just came out of a war and lost millions of people. And sport was a way to kind of bring community together. But the people who had time to organize the sport came from aristocracy. And they came out of the military as officers. So they were part of a military that was very much you do this or else, right? So the way they would coach football and cricket and rugby was very this power over, threat-based, punitive, calling people out, punishment if you didn't do something right. If you missed that, you got to give me so many push-ups and all this stuff. And we see it today. And we know that stuff doesn't work. But it's woven into the fabric of our coaching and our parenting. And unless we're brave enough and curious enough to go, not use this phrase it always worked like that, right? Because that's not going to get us anywhere. Because it really didn't work like that. me growing up in hockey in Saskatchewan in the 80s was very much like, if you say anything, you're in trouble, right? And I played a whole season of hockey with a broken wrist, broken scaphoid, because when I told my coach my wrist hurt, he was like, "Stop your whining, Rothwell," you know. And I had a broken wrist. I was like 15, you know. By the end of the year, I had my one hand on the stick, and I was kicking the shaft of my stick to shoot the puck because I couldn't grab it, and everyone thought I was showing off. You know, so we know that these coaching styles create harm, right? That created harm. I needed a bone graft. I had a bladder infection. It was a real mess just because a coach said, "Stop your whining, Rothwell." So this is why I like to challenge the way we've learned what we've learned. Not to point fingers, not to say it was wrong, but to say we can do better. So this is why we want to be able to culture shift. A culture is a set of values, ideas, and traditions that shape a community. And I'm saying that we can start implementing values, right? We can change traditions, and we can set a new set of ideas so that we can help shift the change of the culture change, the culture shift in hockey. Again, where everyone can thrive and no harm is created.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant.
I mean, the way that it has all kind of now come about to this kind of time, there's been a few, obviously some proper tragedies in hockey over the last week or so as well, which have been horrible to see. The guys in South Alberta, Mustangs, in the car crash, and then the awful thing that happened in Rhode Island earlier this week. And I think it's important that, obviously, as you say, Retribe is still taking these small steps, but to know that people, even involved in things that are happening out there is places they can reach out, isn't there, that can offer some help, which they will no doubt need after going through that. Well,
even right from as you were talking, I was thinking right back from Humboldt, and the bus, and then, we've had deaths of despair, right, which are overdoses and suicide. We've had accidental deaths. We've had a shooting in an ice rink. We've had some horrific things happen within our community, and they affect the hockey community because we are, going back to, say, Sebastian Younger, we're a community that's very tight because hockey's a risky game, and we've experienced, the absolute worst that can happen of that in the UK in the last couple of years. So these connections are made in this community, and we're tight. We're like, and I think that if something happens to you, like where are you going to reach out to? There isn't that kind of knowledge of an app or a website where you can go to. There are Samaritans, and then there's Mind, and there's some great charities there's nothing really specific for something that happens in the sport community that you can reach out to and go, "I'm really struggling with this." And I know people in the UK that are struggling with some of the things that have happened recently because they've reached out to me, and they've reached out to me because of social media. But once an app is actually created, and it's going to take an awful lot to, building an app's easy. Getting people to download it is another game, and we're nowhere are we in any, in the clear by saying we're building an app. You have to have people download it. But it is that safe space for people to download and to be able to say, "I'm struggling with this." There's an SOS feature in the app. And that thing of privacy is really key, of just knowing that it's not going to go anywhere. Because these things are going to happen in any community. Tragedies are going to happen. And making sure that there is a very stable, reliable resource for people is really key. And it's the basis of why we've created this, is to make sure that people have support. But then the next part is the growth part, right? So people, what are we? Support and growth. We need tools to grow all the time. The same thing that made you ask for Katelin to be part of you is about balance, right? Mm-hmm. You were feeling imbalanced in what you were producing. So you thought about, no, I'm going to balance it out, right? And that's life. Our program is called Tough Through Tender, right? And tough represents one side of our humanness, resiliency, being anchored, values-guided action, like these kinds of things. Then you have like on this side of thing, tender, which is like compassion, self-awareness, self-acceptance, vulnerability, and there's everything in between, you know, and there's like a masculine, feminine, yin, yang, whatever you want to say, right? It's all about balance. So that's the growth thing, is that to grow, we need to do work. You know, I didn't get to where I am today just by stopping drinking, you know. That's kind of the easy bit. Staying stopped has taken work. And I live in a program that is about balance. And that's the growth aspect of what we're doing. So it's not just about being a place where we can support one another. It's being a place where we can change and evolve and create this community that, again, can support each other in ways that we never thought possible.
And you say about the sorry, Katelin, I'll let you.
All right, you go.
You say about the privacy element of it. I was so honoured to be part of the Retry podcast and the episodes that we all did, and I never really spoke to anybody about them because it was for the guys in the group. It wasn't to be put out there publicly to start with. They have been put out, haven't they, now on YouTube and Spotify and stuff, and the stories were just absolutely unbelievable. Some I was familiar with, obviously the likes of Nicky Watt and Peter Hewitt. You know, I was familiar with those, but some of the likes of like Mike Blaisdell and Paul Rushforth, they were just incredible to sit there and listen to that, and then for the guys to want to put that out there, that's real progress from their point of view. And particularly with the very first one we did, which was River Rimshaw, that was really hardcore.
Well, we did the 3-period thing, didn't we? Right.
We did,
so,
yeah.
Which was like, as it was, folks, if you haven't listened, it was, we broke the podcast into 3 20-minute periods. First period was,
sometimes they ended up a little longer than that, didn't they?
They were all, but it's funny, you look at it, they were all like 21, 22, 23 minutes. It was quite close. But whistle breaks, right?
Yeah.
So we'll say, well, we built that in. But the first period was about how you fell in love with the game. The second period was like your professional career. And then the third period was life after hockey. And I don't know anybody who didn't listen to those third periods and wouldn't get a tear in their eye with some of those stories, you know, the vulnerability and like that is again, part of that. If I download this app and I pay £10 a month to it, I know I'm getting some exclusive content that's designed just for me. And that's really important. And that's, again, that's going to be so important, not just for the players and the coaches and the officials, but for the parents. So there'll be a section for each person to be able to have access to these stories. And like these things change people, you know. I don't like, I'm sure after your podcast, after some of your podcasts, people reach out to you, right? Because some of the stories and some of the things that you've said resonate with people. And I think it's so important what you guys do, what Nikki does, what the 3-on-3 guys do. I think it's really, really important, you know, because for the community. And what I love so much is there's no competition with you guys.
No.
You're all there supporting one another, and it's beautiful. And I think that should be the same thing. And it is the same thing with us and say Heads Up, you know, like Dr. Silver was like, you know, and Nikki and, oh my gosh, I forgot the other girl's name up in Manchester. She's going to hate me. Oh no, I'm so sorry. But you know, they reached out to me and we had a Zoom call and we had a chat and they told me about their plans and they was like, Nick, we don't want to kind of go against what, and I was like, no, we're working together. And I think that's just so beautiful. And it's almost unheard of is that people get so, oh no, they get their toes stepped on. But when you have people who genuinely want good, you know, and they want the betterment of a league and of hockey, amazing things can happen. And I feel that with what you guys do and 4,000 and those guys like this, it's holding a community together. And through these little stories, that's how we start to shift and drop ideas in, and people start ultimately being nicer to themselves and then to other people.
I feel like you need to give yourself credit for that as well. Like what you're building, you like the way you talk about it, you can tell how important it is to you, because obviously you've been open and honest that you've had your own struggles. So you want to be there for people that have been in the same industry as you, and you want to give them support. And I think you should take so much credit for keep working together with so many different people and genuinely just being a really nice guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, Katelin, it is literally, like I told you, when I wake up in the morning, I have a little smile on my face. Not because, and it's because of the work that I do in recovery. it sits alongside of what Retribe does in a way, and I fit in as maybe a supplier. You know, if someone's struggling with alcohol or substances, they can come to me and I can provide services for them. But in 12-step recovery, right, that's free. And I am always guiding someone through those 12 steps. I don't know how it works. I don't even live around 12-step recovery meetings, but online and Zoom. But there's always somebody reaching out and saying, you know, I'm struggling, you know, can you help me? And what I do is I give my time freely. You know, it's through Zoom or through meeting someone in a coffee shop, which I don't do much anymore because I live out here. And you guide them through these steps. And I've become very good at that. You know, at 10 years sober, or coming up to 10 years sober, I've sponsored over 100 people in 12-step recovery, which is a lot of people. But I've gotten, what happened, actually, I told this story on a podcast the other day and I started to cry. I'll just say that I moved back to London and I was around 49 years old, and I'd reached out to people who I'd worked with in TV, and none of them got back to me, right? And they all have tens, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, and they're multimillionaires, and they're all over TV and the news and the radio and stuff. And I reached out to them. I was like, hey, I'm back in London, you know, and not one of them got back to me. And well, I tell a couple of guys talked to me, but it was just bumping into them. And I'm going to actually, Kelly Cates, Kelly and I worked together, and she actually did reply. We met for a coffee, so she's the only one. I won't name the people who didn't. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, you're such a loser, Nick. Like, you blew it, man. You were on TV. Like, you had the chance of a lifetime to be somebody, right? And you went down this road. You lost everything. You're a piece of shit. And in that moment, I went to my front room in my flat and I wrote down all the names of the people who I'd sponsored. And I went back to that mirror after about 15 minutes, and because the list was of about between 60 and 70 people. And I looked in the mirror and I said, oh, I'm proud of you. Proud of you, Nick. And that's the first time in my life that those words came out of my mouth. I was 49 years old. Never in my life was I ever saying I'm proud of you. Never was I TV. Never when I had a Porsche. Never when I was shopping on Salvo Road. When I had my flat on the river in Chiswick. When I was dating these pretty women. Never was I going, oh, I'm proud of you. But when I was broke, sober for 4 years, and wrote down all the names who had actually helped people, I was like, oh, I'm proud of you. And I think that gave me some self-esteem, Katelin, and I started to believe in me, you know. And I always say this to people too, is like, you can only meet someone as deeply as you've met yourself. Right? Say it again. You can only meet someone as deeply as you've met yourself. Which means for years I had all these like veneer surface like relationships because I didn't know who the hell I was. Mm. But when I finally was like, I'm proud of you, that's when I was like, I met that scared 8-year-old kid and the scared 18-year-old kid and the scared 28-year-old man. And then I was like, I got you. And a few weeks later, I met my wife. And that's why I just think this stuff, like, you have to do the work. And she was in a place too. We didn't need each other. There's that Jerry Maguire thing. Like, I don't know if you guys are probably too old for Katelin.
No.
But
Too old for Katelin, I think.
Yeah. But there's a line where there's this couple in an elevator. I don't want to insult anyone, but trying to fake signing. But she signs, "You complete me," right? With this couple, and they're like, "Oh, isn't that cute? You complete me." And me and my wife, we don't complete each other at all. She's complete. I'm complete. Together, we make a very amazing partnership, right? She's my hero. I love her. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. But we didn't need each other, you know. And that's why, you know, we just it's my life today is all driven around purpose, love for her, love for my boys, and that's that engine, that's that fuel. You know, it has nothing to do with money, nothing to do with accolades. Although I really appreciate you saying, you know, nice things, it has nothing to do with that. This is all about purpose and love. And I think with those things, that's the energy, that's that thing, and that will power this to being what it can be.
Well, Nick, you had me at hello. That's a perfect way to finish it. I think, you've given us an hour of your time this evening. I know that you are so generous with your time for everybody that requests it, be it as part of your job or to get you to talk about it, because that's one of the ways that we can try and share it out there and get it out to as many people as possible what you're doing. So, my good friend, I thank you so much for your time this evening. Go and spend some time with your lovely wife.
Oh, she's sleeping. She's not feeling very good right now. But I said to the boys, I said, if you can put yourselves to sleep without having to come in, and then they get cheeseburgers tomorrow. So I'm going to go check. And I'll let you guys know if they put themselves to sleep. So thank you guys for your time. Katelin, it was wonderful to meet you in Edinburgh. Keep doing what you're doing. Ben, as always, love you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, and people listening to this, this is community. This is connection. This is what this is all about. We're all part of a hockey family, and we're all trying for good things and to create, to I would say maximize everyone's experience in this great game. So just, be part of the movement of what we're doing, of remembering our humanness.
Excellent. Nick, where can everybody find Retribe on social media? Tell us.
So Retribers on Instagram, Retribers. I'm Mr. Nick Rothwell and on Instagram. And our new website is retribecollective.com. If you sign up to it and you're a player, we'll get back to you. We're only taking players, so there's got to be an interview process and a membership process. So just join up if you're a player right now, and just stay tuned for all the news and just follow us on social media. Excellent. And I know you guys are going to retweet all this stuff.
Oh, we're going to be all over it.
Of course we are.
Big love to you, brother.
Thank you.
And
close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.
You saw the game-winning play once, but have to replay it 3 times on the way back to the hotel. Because some moments don't end at the buzzer. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at Best Western. Book direct and save at bestwestern.com.